Okay, welcome back to a new programming tutorial. This time I don't want to cover any special programming language or any specific tool, but I just want to give you an overview of what kind of IDE I am using usually for programming. Yeah? So there are of course many IDEs available. Sometimes I'm also not using any IDE at all. I'm just using a simple plain text editor. But there's also the possibility to use Eclipse, for example, to use Visual Code, which you can even install in Linux. If you have an Ubuntu-based system, for example, you can just simply install it via Snap. Or you can also use online-based IDEs. And this is what I'm especially using when I'm doing small projects. Yeah? And one which I personally like a lot is called Repl.it, which is just Repl.it. As you can see here, this is how it looks like when you register. So first you have to register, you have to insert your email address, then you have to actually confirm this email, and after that you can log in, and then this is the start screen which you see here. And so it offers you a quite broad experience regarding tutorials. Yeah? So you can, for example, go through certain tutorials which explain you how to create your own personal website, how to draw images, and so on. But since I have never done this before, I mean, I directly use this for my own projects. So we will also do this for in order to explain how it actually works. So there are also many other possibilities that you can do. For example, you can check all the REPLs. Now, these are the projects from other various users, and this is very interesting here. In case of REPL, you cannot, in the free version that I'm currently using, you cannot create private REPLs. You can only create public ones, so everybody is able to browse through all the REPLs of any user. But you can, I mean, the payment is not so much high, so for very small pricing you can actually get a very good package where you can also create private REPLs, get more resources, and so on. Yeah, you can also follow certain users if you want to actually see what kind of updates are coming. And here on the left side, you can also see that there are much more possibilities. Maybe we will also cover this at a given time. To create some templates, you can go through some learning process. You can create your own teams where you work with people together. Or there's also a button called curriculum, which you can use for teaching. And the main reason why I'm using this online IDE is because I can easily invite people to work together with me on one project. So for collaborative work, especially when you are in a work group in a university and you are working together on one C++ or Python project, then this is really a good possibility. So maybe before we create our project, we can just see what kind of things happen when you click on your username. So I have registered myself now under Physics Matters with a complete newly created email address, but of course you can use your email address that you already used before. Yeah, so in case when you go to profile, nothing is written here because I just created this profile quite newly, as I said. And when you go to account, you can also insert your names, a little bit about your biography, and you can change password, of course, the email address, and you can also change the theme. I usually prefer dark theme, so I switch it to dark, and I think we can let it like this because it's also maybe easier to identify for the audience. There's also another one called Spooky, which is actually a dark theme, but in orange color, which is also very nice. But as I said, usually I prefer the dark theme. Then there's also now a button Extra Delight Mode. I have never used that before. I have no idea what it does. So maybe we can ignore that for the time being. And as I said, you can also register yourself with a paid account. So there's a billing option where you can purchase certain offers, and then for a monthly payment you can then activate further features. But the free version is already, from my point of view, sufficient. I have never used it for such huge extent. And one of the interesting things, as you can see here, is that you can connect it to certain services. For example, in this case, what I'm sometimes doing is using it in combination with GitHub, because there is a version control system implemented, and then you can directly push your programs that you created to GitHub, and yeah, then later you can go back to through the various commits. You can create branches also very easily. Okay, but before I go now too much into all the details here, we can just maybe briefly create a REPL, a project. So as you can see, you have many programming languages from which you can choose. Yeah, you have C++, you have Julia. I'm 100% sure there should be also R project available. You have Java, C++ of course is also included. So there's a quite also very, very uncommon programming languages which I have never heard of are also implemented here. But for the time being, we will just stick to maybe the easiest one, which is just Python, because there I can explain very simple what to do with that. So here the title, there's a title proposed by Repl.it, which is usually very long, but it's unique. Yeah? Nevertheless, I would like to change this to maybe hello world. Yeah? And as I said, you can only create public accounts. If you want to create private ones, then you have to power it up. And I don't want to import anything from GitHub. This is also possible if you want to continue some work which you have created before, but for the time being, we create just simply a new one. And yeah, then here it how it looks like. I zoomed a little bit into to make it a little bit more prominent. It needs a little bit time to load things when you run it for the first time, but later when you open the project again, then all the things are somehow stored in certain folders. Then you can click here through the different hints, which explains you what kind of things you can do with what. If you are interested, you can of course read it, but I hope that with this tutorial which I created now, you will be able to follow everything easily. Okay, before we go through all the important points, I would just create a very very basic sample. This is just here you can see a Python file which has automatically been created, main.py, and this is also the standard file which is interpreted when you click on run. So in this case, maybe we can just print out some hello world. Just simply Python 3 is used. So when you run this, you can see here in this console, it's actually shown. And when you click here on clear, then actually the console is cleared. It is basically, the interpreter is always running here, as you can see. There is a shell where you can actually access the terminal. So if you would now type in Python 3 main.py, it would run Python, or you can also inside Python just write import main, and then it will also run the program. It doesn't matter. So this is actually the Python console, and this is the bash which is running. Okay, this is very simple. Now let's do it a little bit more complicated and create a picture. So we have to write here import matplotlib.pyplot splt, and then just let's create some arbitrary values here. Just a list with 4 entries, and then we can write here plt dot plot x and y and plt show. I think this is the easiest example that you can choose. And when you run this now, it has to install some further packages, but as I said, this is only done once, and later when you open your project again, then it should be stored. It installs all the required packages which you need in order to actually show that output. Now you can also see it installs actually matplotlib, which was not installed before. And when it finishes, then you can see here very nicely this output window. So it's actually creating a VNC connection to this computer on which you are running. You don't know which computer you're running on, of course, but it just creates an image of that window which is created. You can also manipulate this, you can shift this, you can enlarge it, so you can manipulate this. So here you can see that by just changing the size, you can you can play around with that. Okay, this is maybe too small. Yeah, and yeah, this works very well as if you are actually working on a remote computer. This is the great advantage here. But if you don't want to show it, which makes sense in some cases, when you stop it, it also cleared. Maybe you want to create this as a new file. This is normally how I am doing that. So you can actually just write simply plt.savefig, and then we can write here, for example, test.png. And when you run that, again, you will get a notification when the program is finished. And here on the left side, now we created this new file here, test.png. Now, if it is a little bit unclear and not very sharp to read, you can of course save that and store this on your computer. Another thing is of course that you just increase the DPI. This is always possible. I hope that it will improve it a little bit. Otherwise, you can, it also refreshes automatically, and you can also change here the size, of course, if you want to look a little bit more closer into that. Another possibility is, of course, that you save this as a PDF, test.pdf. When you now run that, then in addition to this PNG file, you will also find now a PDF. Test.pdf, and when you click on that, then it automatically, depending on which browser you are using, in this case it's Firefox, it automatically opens the internal PDF viewer, and then also the resolution, of course, is much better because it's just the vector graphics, and you can actually really work with this as if you work on your local computer. So of course I don't want to make too much advertising for this online IDE, but I have used this a lot in the past. For research purpose, and I'm really happy with that. So as I said, even the free version of this program is already sufficient for most of the cases. One of the very important things is that even if you have not activated version control, you can click on REPL history, and then as you can see, it shows you what kind of things has changed throughout the time. So here you can go back in the timeline and check what kind of things has been changed. So in the very beginning we included hello world, just print it out, and then if you go further, then you can see what kind of additional text has been added. If more people are working on one project, it will also show which author has actually changed what. So later you can go back and make some undo if you are unhappy with that, for example. Now you can return to workspaces, and then you can see after this very nice animation which is shown here, you can actually see the same thing which we have seen before. So this is actually, I said, very nice. You have a very nice file viewer. You can also just create new files. You can also add new folders, of course, if you want to include, or if you want to just clean up your space a little bit. And then one of the biggest advantages is, of course, you can also upload files. So you can click on upload, or you can just drag and drop from your desktop into this folder here. You can upload also a complete folder. You can download the whole project as a zip. This is very important because at the end, you maybe after finishing your analysis or whatever you are doing with that, you also want to publish your code, or you want to give it to someone else without inviting this person to Replit. So then at the end, you can download this as a zip and give it to someone. You can also show hidden files. So there are actually some config files, config folders created by matplotlib, which are otherwise not shown, and some other folder here, which I'm also not exactly sure what it's doing. Some config file. This is very interesting because this Replit config file actually tells the interpreter or the framework, so to say, what it should do. So here it shows the language which is included here, the entry point, which is actually the file name which should be interpreted, and then you can manipulate this. For example, if you have a bunch of Python files and there is a certain one which you want to run, then you can just simply change it here. This is one possibility how to do that. I'm usually using then in this case the shell directly or the console, but it's completely up to you what you prefer in this case. Here you can also, when you click here, you can see a few more things about your project. Private, as I said, is not possible at the moment. you can also say that it should continuously stay awake, especially when you have a certain job done at a given time. Then this is maybe an important option. Boosting, I think all that, I'm not sure whether this is included in the free version or not. I don't want to change so much. You can give a description, of course, and here you can also fork this, as I have said before. One of the most important features here, and this is also the main reason why I'm using this, is that you can invite people. So you can actually insert an email address of someone who you know and then invite him, or you can also generate a link. And then you can distribute this link, and whoever has this link can participate, but it's a little bit risky because maybe some people are guessing that link and can log in to your project. Inviting is always the best idea. However, as far as I know, this person who you invite also must have a Replit account. Then, as I said, here on the left side, you have version control. So you can create a Git repository. Maybe we can just do that once for testing. And it should then show what kind of things has been added in case of files and what has changed in the future. But it always needs a little bit time to actually load. So here you can see it actually automatically created a Git which with an initial commit. So in this case, we don't have to do anything. We can also create new branches here. This is also a very nice thing. We can connect to GitHub, as I said, so you can push it there. And now we create, maybe just for testing purposes, a new file, test.python, and we just insert some code here. And then we go to version control. And then it automatically says here that a new file has been created. And it automatically added actually. So you can click here on this minus sign, then it will not be added actually. Or you click here on plus, and then it is considered as a file to be added. And then you can give some commit name here, just arbitrary, in this case, some names. Commit all. So now after some time, you will see that now it appears in previous commits. And as you can see now, it's shown here also the timestamp when it has been created, the commit name. And if you have connected it to GitHub, then you can now press on push, and it will automatically be pushed into the main repository. There is also something regarding packager, which I have never used before, but it shows which kind of packages have been implemented, and I think you can remove them. So they are installed now at the moment for making it faster when you open it again, but you can also delete them if you are not using this anymore, for example. And then there is something regarding secrets. I'm also not exactly sure what it does. There is a debugger available, so you can set breakpoints. There is a database possibility, which I also never used before, but you can create your own databases and then import this, which is a very fast possibility. I'm not sure whether it's SQL based or any other type of mechanism behind that, but it's maybe a very interesting feature, I guess. Then here we have something which is authentication. I'm also not exactly sure what it does. Maybe I can try to find it out and then maybe make another video about that. Some unit testing, you can implement some testing structure to find out whether your program fails or runs correctly, especially when you run a compiled C++ script. Maybe this is quite interesting. And then of course there are also possibilities to set here for the editor. So you can actually tell Replit how to show the layout. The font size you can change, the indent type from spaces to tabs, depending on what you need or what you want to do. And so on. So everything is actually fully editable. From my point of view, it is not worse than any IDE which you can use on your local computer. From my point of view, it's even comparable to Visual Studio Code. Maybe not that much powerful, but at least very clean. So you can easily work on your project with other people together. You can also work with them simultaneously. So if somebody has opened your project, you will see exactly on which part he's working. The cursor of this person is actually shown, and you know what kind of things he is changing, and you can directly communicate with this person to tell him or her what has to be changed. Here in the lower part of that site list, you can actually see how much of the CPU power is used. At the moment, around 5 of 100. So I think in the free version you have less than 1 CPU for computation, but in the paid version I think it's getting more. Then you have RAM of, I guess it's 1 gigabyte. And then you have also storage, especially when you store large pictures or when you have large data to be analyzed, then maybe this might run into a limitation, but I have never observed that in the past. And yeah, it also has a very nice help. You can see what kind of shortcuts you have, and for many purposes or for many things you can find the right shortcut. Just for example, when you press Control and Enter, it compiles or runs something. Like for example, our program here, instead of clicking on Run, you can just press Control Enter, and then it automatically runs. So the help is also quite nice in this case. Here's the possibility to create a chat and to write something in certain threads. So now it's possible directly to communicate with other people working on your project. Yeah, it's similar to Overleaf for LaTeX. I think this is a very nice possibility to really do collaborative work with people. And for the time being, this is everything what I want to show. Now, I hope you like it and you learned something new. If you want me to do any further video about this, yeah, put it into the comment section, then I can make some more tutorials about that. Yeah, and with this, I want to thank you very much for your attention. If you liked the video, hit the like button. Please subscribe my channel if you have not done it so far. And if you don't want to miss any further video, please also hit the bell button. And otherwise, see you very soon for a new video.